Coming to you live from Radio Cayman Studio.
For the record.
For the record. Hear from your government officials, independents, and the opposition on issues that matter to you. The record. Engage in an open dialogue between residents and lawmakers.
For the record.
The record. Informative, impartial, insightful.
This is your talk show.
1-800-534-8255. Your calls, your input. This is For the Record. And now, your host, Orit Connor.
Good morning and welcome to For the Record. Or should I be welcoming myself back to For the Record? Today, of course, is Monday, the 14th of August, 2017. I trust that everyone had an enjoyable weekend. I want to say hello to everyone, those of you who have had mishaps in your lives, in your families. We want to extend our condolences to all of you as well. I also want to thank you, our listening and viewing audience, for allowing Radio Cayman and by extension For the Record into your homes, into your vehicles as you traverse the busy roads of the Cayman Islands, into your places of work, whether it be an office cubicle or if you're working in the outdoors. Of course, For the Record is a show produced by the staff and the management of Radio Cayman, and it is geared towards keeping you abreast of issues as they arise and play out on the local, regional, and international scene. I am your host, Orit Connor. My two co-hosts this morning, Dr. Steve Macfield, Mr. Gilbert McLean. You can join us in the conversation by calling us on our toll-free number provided courtesy of Flow. That toll-free number is 1-800-534-8255. You can also call us on 949-8037 and the 949-6990. Of course, if you don't like to talk on the telephone, email us at For the Record. That is one word, For the Record, at CANDW.KY. First, I want to extend my thanks, my gratitude to Mr. Gilbert McLean and Dr. Steve Macfield for conducting For the Record in my absence. Greeted at the airport by the customs porters and everybody else telling me such a fantastic job that was done by both of you. Certainly Dr. Steve Macfield with his historical and legal knowledge, and of course Mr. Gilbert McLean as a former member of our Legislative Assembly, former civil servant who reached up to the point of district commissioner in Cayman Brac and Little Cayman. So lots of knowledge that they had to impart to you, and a background that they could rely on in terms of giving you that information as well. So, gentlemen, again, good morning. Thanks, for filling in for me. And I'm going to leave it up to you today. I'm going to be the listener because I'm going to expect you, the two of you, to bring me up to speed in terms of what's happening. While I was off island, I was in a country where if you turn on your data, you could come back and you may have to work 2 months just to pay the bill, pay the phone bill. So I turned my data off and relied on, what one of my friends, David Powell, could get on Facebook in terms of the news and everything else. So I'm going to rely on both of you. But again, thank you very much for keeping the show going at the high level that we find ourselves at.
OC. It's good to see you back here. I mean, you're the man. This show has really become something that is a part of you, and I am one who listens to it 3 times a week. And of course, Mr. Macfield is undoubtedly someone of great legal knowledge and other historical resource. So we had some good discussions here, and it's good to see you back and back in the chair, and we can still today continue to participate. There have been a few things, including the mystery policeman in Jamaica, and there is no real answer yet to what or who he is, and that is something which needs to be clarified, because here is someone whose name is given in one of the most prominent newspapers in Jamaica. A story is written about it, that he was arrested, that he was charged, he went to court, and the name of a judge, the name of his counsel, his defense counsel, and what the result of that was. So something is really missing here. And it could be that he had that particular name when he was arrested, but maybe this person is operating under a different name. We don't really know. But like, I was mentioning it to you this morning when you came in, that I think we should get some clarification. Cayman should, because Cayman allegedly is hiring that person, or a person that they say is Odane Simpson. And the police here is saying that no such person exists. Well, maybe that person exists under a different name. And, of course, the other thing that Mr. Macfield and I spoke about, that it might be timely, is the whole issue, whatever it was and to whatever extent, which involved our Speaker, Mr. McKeever Bush. That issue is over. It's now dead, and we thought it might be good for the general public to actually hear some discussion as to the role of a speaker. Who is the speaker in the legislature, and his role and responsibilities. But once again, welcome back home, and I'm personally glad to be here this time, being free to talk without having to worry about reading there and handling that mic and making sure there's no dead air.
Oh, you're pretty good at multitasking, though. Not to worry about that. Doc, good morning. Nice to see you again.
Good morning, Mr. For the Record. Welcome back home, and I would like to say good morning to all your listeners locally and those that are listening to you abroad. I know you have a great following. It was good that you got a good reception at the entrance back into the country, because in that area there's no constitutional protection. They could have not let you back in, or and because we were quite worried that we were trying to lift up every stone, and as the gentleman who is our TV recording technician says, that we were throwing stones, and we were quite worried that the door would not be open this morning when you came in, because of what we did, what we did last week. But thank you for allowing us to continue in your place when you were gone. It's a great show, and I didn't really understand the fathom of it until I walk in the streets and I go into a restaurant, or I go into the supermarket, or go somewhere, and just about everybody listens to the show. I know that they don't call in, and just because a lot of people don't feel that they have the sensitivity, or they don't have the ability to call in because they don't feel that they want to be on a speaker, because a lot of Caymanians now want to be anonymous, but they're listening. They listen, and they understand the issues that we are bringing forward. And I'm happy to say that at least we are educating the public, and we are informing them of what has happened, and the views about the Constitution, and about things that are happening. And that issue, that story that my friend Mr. McLean just brought you up to date with, is a story that we need some clarifications. We need some results from that story, and we want to know if there's a lie, who is telling a lie, or if there's an error, where the error is, and we want to know who is this policeman who was arrested in Jamaica, who is a policeman in the Cayman Islands, because that's what his defense attorney told the court, that he's a policeman here, and that he asked the court not to impose any conditions on his bail because he had to return to the Cayman Islands for his job.
Now, Dr. Steve, as an attorney, that information that his attorney relayed to the judge, that information would be coming from the client to
The attorney.
the attorney.
Yes.
So the attorney is relying on the information to be accurate.
That's right.
And would not deliberately misrepresent the facts to the judge.
Yes, exactly, and would not have checked it, or not have had time to check to see if it was true or not. And why would the attorney in Jamaica check the background of the facts that was related to them, that was related to them by their client, the instructions from their client, if they did not believe their clients to be truthful. And of course, every attorney in the Cayman Islands, and I guess in Jamaica is the same, is an officer of the court. And what the attorney tells the judge should and will rely upon it as being the truth.
Because here, in one part of the story, it says here that the attorney also raised concerns about the way in which her client was arrested. She told Parish Judge Simone Wolf-Rees that her client was not informed about the allegations, and the warrant for his arrest was signed in October. We assume that's October of
2016.
Right? But that no one informed him of this, although he visited the island in May and even visited his colleagues at his workplace.
Yes. So the colleague at his workplace means the policeman at his workplace. And not informed about the warrant against him mean that he was not informed because he was in the Cayman Islands working as a policeman. That is what I gather from that information. The reason why he was not informed because he was he was abroad.
But there's a little conflicting information here because they haven't said what year October. We're assuming that it was last year October.
Yes.
But it also says that according to Wright, her client, who resigned for the Jamaica Constabulary Force last December, that would be December of 2016.
Yes.
So he would have resigned after the warrant was issued in October.
Yes.
So something doesn't gel there either.
Yes.
He would have resigned at that point in time. What I'm going to do today during our news break is I don't know if anyone has spoken to this reporter, Tanisha Mundell, the reporter for the Jamaica Observer. Hopefully we can make contact with the Jamaican Observer to see if there's an update, because there was some indication here also that the person would be returning to court in a few days' time or something like that as well. I'll try to find that there, but there's some indication of that. We're going to take a commercial break now, folks. For the record, we'll be back immediately after this short commercial break. Please stay tuned. Good morning and welcome back to For the Record. In the studio with me this morning, my co-hosts, Mr. Gilbert McLean and Dr. Steve McField. We have one caller, so we're going to go straight to the phone lines. Caller, good morning. Welcome to For the Record.
Good morning, O.C.
Good morning. How are you, sir?
Doing good. Good morning, Dr. Steve.
Good morning, Mr. Devil.
Honorable McLean.
Good morning.
That topic is on again this morning with the police. I repeat what Dr. Steve said. Fingerprints and pictures when they're coming in. I know years ago, Gail joke years ago, I went to play cricket, and it's been years I hadn't played, and the first ball they bowled to me, I licked a six. So picture came out in the paper, and this big thing about first ball, a six. So when I saw the director, I said, man, you let me down. The name is right, but the picture looked like 00. Which I was pictures don't lie. So take the pictures, and it shouldn't be so hard to sort out. The police force here should know who they hired within that around that time and sort that out. But it is something to it, because Make me explain to you, you can get anything up there. You can come down with any papers. Clean record, anything up there. Okay. And OC, I made history while you were gone.
Oh, wow. Okay. Tell me about it.
Calling twice one day.
Is that because I wasn't here or what?
So you all have a good day now, listening, okay?
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Bye-bye.
In speaking about Mr. Ivan's comments about the checks at immigration, most flights, if not all flights now, are pre-cleared, which means that if your name is listed on a manifest and that manifest is passed on to the authorities, including immigration, they then have the ability to check that passenger manifest to determine if there's anyone on a stop notice, on a stop list, who's not allowed to leave the jurisdiction, and they would take the necessary action to ensure that that person isn't allowed to leave the jurisdiction. If you're a tourist, if you're a visitor to the island, you've been given one of the immigration cards along with your passport being endorsed, indicating the length of time that you're allowed to stay in the jurisdiction. That card is now handed to the airline's agent at the counter. They take that card from you. That goes to immigration. So when you're going through, there's no one, from immigration there. But what I'm trying to highlight is the fact that there is a passenger manifest, and that passenger manifest for that particular date and that particular flight would show whether the names of the persons on there. So I don't know why there is so much silence here in the Cayman Islands about it, either from immigration or from the police department. Why the silence? It can't be, Dr. Macfield, because it's sub judice. It's sub judice in Jamaica, but that really has nothing to do with the travel, because they have already stated that he works in the Cayman Islands. They have given that information to the courts in Jamaica, that he works in the Cayman Islands as a police officer. Why the silence on our end?
He may be an undercover policeman. You don't know. That might be one reason that he might be working.
Well, he certainly
Not
he
undercover
blew his cover through
Yeah.
the courts.
Well. The reason why he told his lawyer that he actually is a policeman, and it's because there was a warrant of his arrest, and he needed to bail, and therefore he would have to have revealed his position in the country that he's now in order to induce the court to grant bail to him. So probably that's a reason why. I don't know.
Okay, we have one caller. Let's go to the phone lines. Caller, good morning. Welcome to For the Record.
Good morning, gentlemen.
Good morning, sir.
Good morning.
Yeah, I just want to know, kind of a different tone this morning and very short.
Sure.
A friend of mine was at the farmer's market, I think over the weekend. And this sounds like a joke, but it's true. Someone wanted to charge him $6 for breadfruit. I mean, is this real? When in the season, people just take them by the wheelbarrows, including my family, and just got to give them to the cows or give them away, ask people to come to get them. I think like a breadfruit, which is very nutritional, it's good for you, don't get me wrong. But I think when you're talking about $6 for breadfruit, gentlemen, I don't know what you guys think, but I think that's a little bit over the market rate, especially if you want people to support the farmers market. I think you should kind of have things in perspective, in order where people can reach prices, So I am not going to say no more, but I just listen to what you guys are going to say about that. So have a good day. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Very quickly, demand and supply, I would imagine. $6 seems exorbitant, but sometimes it's very difficult to get a breadfruit. The season is almost over now for breadfruits, as well.
And the dry season too. I have about 4 or 5 breadfruit trees.
Don't tell people how many you have on it now,
Yeah.
because you may go home now and not find them.
There are not many on it now because they were very small. They didn't mature because of the lack of water in the dry season. Even the avocados are the same thing too.
Okay. Paul, do you think we have enough time to take another caller before the news break? Okay, let's grab this caller. Caller, good morning. Welcome to For the Record.
Yeah.
Good morning.
Morning.
We're getting an echo from you. I don't know if it's a speakerphone or what. Not hearing you well.
Oh, okay. Can you hear me better now?
That's much better. You're going to have to be quick, though, because we're getting ready to go to the news.
Yeah, what I want to say quickly is this, that you remember some time ago there was a guy here, I think he had committed some major crime or killed somebody or something like that. There was a police force here, Jamaican, and they had to send him back, or they got rid of him. What I think is happening is this. I think somewhere within the police force, because we got some of the Jamaican police here, somebody that he knew sort of vouched for the guy. He came in here and nobody checked anything because this person had vouched for him. And I think these things can happen. I'm not saying that it happens all the time, but it's possible that could have been one of the things. These are the things that I say that why we should never be taking policemen from one particular jurisdiction. We got good policemen from years ago. We used to have people from Belize, from Jamaica, from...
I think, caller, we have a pretty good mixture now. We have Filipinos. We have a lot of English police officers as well, Jamaicans. We have quite a mixture. I wouldn't venture to say that it is not dominated now by Jamaican nationals.
Yeah, I don't think it's dominated, but I'm saying we have this thing. The thing that really, they're doing a disservice. Those people that come here, if the people over there don't check there and tell the truth about what's happening, because, I mean, how could a policeman that was an ex-policeman get down here and nobody in that police force notified these people here that this guy, don't, if he comes down, just don't hire him. But these are things that go on in Cayman and other places, I'm sure, but we have to be very careful and check everything when these, not just the policemen from Jamaica, but anybody who comes here, like
to work,
like
yes.
Saeed, when he got here, and here he is, this is what I'm talking about. We gotta have a better system.
Thank you very much, caller. Sorry, we have to go to the news break now. So, for the record, we'll be back immediately after the news. Just press the pause button. Don't change the dial. Good morning and welcome back to For the Record. In the studio with me this morning, two co-hosts, Dr. Steve Macfield, Mr. Gilbert McLean. Did an excellent job while I was away from the 4th day of August until Friday. Excellent job. Rave reviews we have some very, very harsh critics out there in the public, and when they give you a good review, that means it's a job well done, because they tell you when you're not doing a good job too. So excellent job these two gentlemen did in my absence, and I want to thank them again. We have one caller. Let's go to the phone lines. Caller, good morning. Welcome to For the Record.
Yes, good morning, OC.
Good morning. How are you?
Rough. I'm shocked. Good morning to your panel, Mr. Gilbert and Dr. Steve.
Good morning,
Good morning.
sir.
Yes, I'm shocked and embarrassed from Friday night about something after 10. I went to the police station. A white panel van was parked in front, right, like it was parked so close that I could smell the fumes coming through the front door, and the front door was locked, Anyway, I'm shocked with the reception that I got with stating that the van was parked there, and I was embarrassed that it was two Caymanian police that sort of received me. I asked the question if anyone knew who was driving the panel van in front of the bakery. One officer said that he was driving it, and what about it? I said, well, the engine the motor is running, and I would really appreciate if someone would move it. And the other officer now, I couldn't even get to just, talk with him in the way that I wanted to, when I was, it was something that I never experienced in my life with all the times that I've been to the police station to lay a complaint.
Yeah. Now, tell us what happened.
Yes. And anyway, the guy that was driving the Panavan, he said, "Oh, my partner's in there." I said, "Your partner?" So, you should think a little bit better of your partner. I said, the air condition can go off in the van if it's air condition that you want. Like you say, well, his partner is an animal. I said, "Oh, okay. Well, I would still appreciate if you guys would just move the van or shut it off, because the fumes is coming in. I could smell them coming in through the seams of the door."
Mm-hmm.
And, the respect that I had for the police force all of these years, and for them to abruptly sort of cut that off, because I'm really, really shocked, still shocked over the reception that I got from them.
So they refused to move to turn the vehicle off or move it?
So they were going to move the van. I said, "Good, thanks," and I'll be on my way. The guy that was behind in the reception area of the counter of the police, he came around. It didn't take two of them to move the van. So, and it seemed as if he wanted to push his chaffers up on me, trying to tell me it's been taken care of. Shouting in my face. I say, "Hey, what happened?" And I said, "All right, good night. Have a nice night." And I walked away, and that was it. I tell you, so OC, the motto that they have printed on the side of the
Protect and serve?
Protect and serve. No, I know they said that we listen, we care, and we protect. Well, you see that one where they heard about listen? That one needed to be snapped and shot.
Okay,
that they can go off on you in a minute.
My suggestion, caller, is that you document what occurred and forward it to the police complaints, copied to the commissioner of police, and see what response you get.
OC,
Mm-hmm.
Listen, it is so much corruption right now going on in the Cayman Islands. And I got to say that not all the police are corrupted, but you got a few bad apples in there that really needed these.
But if we talk about it on the talk show, and we do absolutely nothing in terms of going to officialdom about it, then
I can report anything, honestly.
Sorry?
I said this is the only place that I feel, for the record, that I can report anything that makes any significant approach, because I called the radio station on Friday. Mr. Gilbert was there, and I was sort of following up and letting him know what had taken place with the parking business there. And it seems as if like these two officers just blatantly just parked there to see, give us a new time that I come to set up the door in the night for the next day. Because I can't think of no other. And matter of fact, there was two vehicles there, but I was only complaining about the one that the motor was running. The homes are very, that's carbon.
Did you get an opportunity to speak to the officer in charge there? I believe there's an inspector who's the officer in charge. Do you know the rank of the officers that you were speaking to?
The two officers that confronted me was I would have to call them the reception, because one was sitting behind the desk, reception area, so I didn't know who was in charge there that night, because there were 5 or 6 of them inside there, It was really embarrassing. It really embarrassing, man. I mean, because I really didn't expect that from them.
Yeah, okay, your point's well taken.
And we're talking about the station in the Brack, aren't we?
Pardon?
Yeah.
Are we talking about the station in the Brack?
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
Okay, but I would follow. I would, if I were you, the suggestion that I gave you, just to see, out of curiosity, to see what sort of response you get from it, because they're your next door neighbors, So you want to work hand in hand, and they have to realize that you're running a bakery, where hygiene as well as safety is important. Yes, the safety of their dog is important as well, but you have to work cooperatively together. It's like both of you are stuck in the same boat. Okay. Sounds as if the caller's gone, but I hope that he heard those last comments. We appreciate him calling and airing it on For the Record. Sure. But if you really want results, try it, at least lodging a complaint.
Over there, OC, it's you have the bakery and you have the police station that basically are in the same yard. I think on Friday he said that there had been a survey done. A surveyor from the unit there had actually come and taken the ground reconnaissance. But maybe it's proper. I don't know if they marked it as such with lines or whatever, so that both he and the police can be guided. But that is a situation that's been that way now for decades. And really, when you think of it, maybe it's time for the police station to be moved elsewhere, and so they get enough space and parking and everything else, because one of the major problems is the parking. Yeah. The cars going to the bakery and to the police station basically use the same parking area.
Mm-hmm. Just to say to our listening audience, we made a promise that we would try to get in contact with the Jamaica Observer. We've called their offices, probably a little bit too early. Not sure what time their offices open. I tried the newsroom, no response from that number. I've tried their headquarters, no response, but we're going to try later on. Maybe they open at 8:30, 9 o'clock. We're not sure, but we'll continue to try. One caller, let's go to the phone lines. Caller, good morning. Welcome to For the Record.
Good morning.
Good morning, ma'am.
Mr. O.C., it's good to hear you back again.
Thank you very much.
This is Georgia Bank and Mr. Gilbert McLean and Dr. Steve Maxfield.
Good morning, ma'am.
Did a most
good morning.
wonderful job while you were gone.
Yes, ma'am. So I heard.
It is true. They handled the show in a very professional manner. I asked Ms. McLean and Dr. Steve one question the other day, and they said they would be very sure to get the answer for me. Mm-hmm. So I'm going to repeat the question and listen to see if you, Mr. McLean, Mr. Gilbert, and you, Dr. Steve, got the answer. I want to know how many Cayman policemen and women we have, and how many foreign policemen and women we have. You don't have to break it down into nationalities, but I want to know how many of our own police women and men, Caymanians, are there in the force. And I thank you most sincerely. And I did forget my manners. I trust that all three of you and your family members are well. And God bless you, and thank you, Mr. O.C., for giving me this chance.
Thank you very much, Ms. Georgette.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Georgette. And we're still trying to get that information for you, Ms. Georgette. And you might be surprised to know, Ms. Georgette, that when you say Caymanians now, there are going to be some people who are not born here. And so Caymanians means people with Caymanian status. So when we give you that figure, you don't be surprised to say that it's going to be more than what you thought, or less than what you think should be. So we're trying to get those figures for you, Ms. Georgette, and we probably have them on Wednesday or Friday for you. The whole breakdown of the stuff we're getting it from the Government Information Services. Thank you.
We have one more caller. Caller, good morning. Welcome to For the Record.
Good morning, Quincy Brown here. How are you gentlemen doing?
Fine, Quincy. How are you?
Very well. A very good point you make, Dr. Steve Maxfield, attorney at law, because when you say Caymanian now,
yes,
it's so broad. I mean, when you say Caymanian in a casino, when we say Caymanian who is in trouble in Florida, are we talking about a born and bred generational Caymanian or someone with status as virtue of naturalization. So it is broad and far-reaching. It really is. And I think if we are to build a nation and if we are to become a strong unit together, we need to get rid of xenophobia, and we need to understand that unity will make us one, whether we're generational or whether we've been here for 10 years. It's about nation building, I think. And I was at the Seaman Center just yesterday on Cayman Brac, and that place is replete with information as it relates to our past. The Seamen's and Veterans Center on Cayman Brac. It's either the Gleaner or the Observer, but I think it's the Jamaica Gleaner, that would have listed those lost at sea during the 1932 hurricane. I think it's the Jamaica Gleaner. So I was having a read yesterday, taking notes. Any person who wants to know more about our history, yes, I recommend the museum, I recommend the Heritage House, but if you could get access to the Veterans and Seamen's Hall, which is locked under key, you'd have to get permission to go there. School children, field trips, visitors to the island, there's a wealth of information as it relates to our maritime history. Where is Mrs. Pitcairn, Teresa Pitcairn? Is she still off island, gentlemen?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. I'll close by saying, in a Bracker living on Cayman Brac, resident visitor, I now have a program called Caribbean Garden. It's radio and TV, so for your advertising needs, in a sort of community event that's happening on the Brac, just get in touch with me and we can get the word out. Thanks for taking my call, gentlemen. Good day.
Thank you very much, Quincy. Sure. We're going to go to a commercial break, and for the record, we'll return immediately after the break. Good morning and welcome back to For the Record. In the studio with me this morning, Dr. Steve Macfield and Mr. Gilbert McLean. For those of you who like to follow the news, follow politics in Jamaica, the PNP has lost another sitting member of Parliament, Dr. Winston Green. He passed away early this morning at the Andrews Memorial Hospital after he collapsed at home. He was the PNP representative for the St. Mary's Southeast constituency. His bio, he was originally from Nanaville in St. Andrew. He was trained as a dentist in Cuba in the 1980s. He had quite a passion for community development and working with Jamaicans, and he was a member of Parliament's Public Administration and Appropriation Committee. So he passed away this morning after collapsing at home. The article does not give his age at this point in time, but I'm sure that there will be more on that. And of course, we here in the Cayman Islands extend our condolences to Dr. Green's family, as well as to the Jamaican people. Gentlemen, I know you had planned on talking about the role of the speaker, one of the things that you wanted to talk about, and I'll just preface that by saying it is refreshing, it is relieving to see that no charges were brought against the Speaker of the Legislative Assembly, the Honorable W. McKeever Bush. And just like I said, when people commented about the calls for him to resign and talk about motions of no confidence, that until charges were proffered against him, that nothing should be done simply because we didn't know what direction this would all take. That's why sometimes it is not really, really good to jump the gun, jump to conclusions before you see what's happening. So it's refreshing that he can put this past him at this point in time. We can put it past us at this point in time so that when the legislature sits, I believe that may take place sometime, maybe the 21st next week, somewhere around there, that at least that issue will not be on the agenda. I'll turn over to you, gentlemen, and I'll do the listening for a change.
Well, I as we informed your listeners last week when we were here, that your position as a host of this show, and certainly our position is not to jump to conclusions when people get arrested or things like that, because there's this thing that people really don't understand thoroughly. That's the presumption of innocence, and people that you shouldn't make have any personal opinion until when the matter is concluded, and that's the reason why you never mention it on your show, because the matter was under investigation and in the hands of the police, and therefore the matter was not concluded. So now that the matter is concluded, we thought that we would try to bring the public up, have an update of what the speaker is, and how the speaker came about, and what the roles of the speaker is now today. Mr. McLean.
Yes, I think, Mr. McField, you gave a short historical note on it, which I think would be relevant. And if you're going to discuss it now, then maybe just if you could reiterate on that, then we could connect the different points as to the actual functions within the House and so on.
Yeah, well, as I said last week, the speaker started as a messenger for the king. That is why he was given permission to speak on behalf of the monarch, and therefore he was a messenger between the king and Parliament. The king would send this person down to Parliament with messages, or what the king was wanted to tell Parliament, because there was separation between the two entities, the two organs, and the speaker would come back to the king or to the monarch and tell the monarch what Parliament response was, and that is how the speakership developed. And then the speaker became a prominent member of the British Parliament since 1377, and that was because when the divine ruler of kings and Parliament split, and when it was brought about that the king was separate from Parliament, then the speaker took what the office that the king had, because the king was always the person who controlled the Parliament and who sat in the chair. So in our legislature, the speaker is a constitutional position. Under Section 60 of the Constitution, it says that the Legislative Assembly shall consist of a speaker and a deputy speaker, and so the speakership is enshrined in our Constitution in Section 60, and although the Constitution also says that the speaker can come from inside the Legislative Assembly or can come from outside the Legislative Assembly. Now, one of the first things that happens after an election, is that the first order of business in the Legislative Assembly is the election of the speaker.
That's right.
That's the first thing. Because without a speaker, the Legislative Assembly cannot be called together.
Okay. Now,
just
one question with that, Dr. Steve. So the first thing is the election of a speaker.
Yes.
But someone has to preside over the legislature for that election to take place. Who does that normally?
Usually that is the clerk, or that is the head of the father of the house.
Okay.
Right.
The person who has the longest tenure in the Legislative Assembly. That is usually the person that presides over the house on the speaker. Now the speaker is usually in the House of Commons in the UK. And in Canada, the speaker is elected by secret ballot by all the members of the Legislative Assembly to preside. Now, in Canada and United Kingdom, and I think in Australia and New Zealand too, is the same thing. That once the speaker is elected to preside in the chair, that if he's elected from inside the House, it means that his constituency, because of the neutrality of the Speaker, it says that the Speaker is neutral and he's responsible for making sure that all MLAs, no matter what party they belong to, are treated fairly and impartially. And he only has a vote in the Legislative Assembly to broker a tie. So that means that the Speaker cannot take part in confrontational politics. And in most countries like Canada, United Kingdom, Australia, and all those other Commonwealth places, the Speakers, if he's come from outside the House, his seat is not challenged. In other words, the other parties will not run anyone against him in his constituency. So the Speaker really gets elected unopposed. The Speaker, when elected, doesn't he doesn't stop being an MLA if he's come from outside the House. That means that while remaining neutral and avoiding taking public positions on political and controversial matters before the Legislative Assembly, the Speaker must still continue to listen to the people in his constituency and to give some effectively represent their interests. So the Speaker does this by making private recommendations to the government, to the ministers who are involved in the things that he wants to do. That's what the Speaker does, and that's how the Speaker gets to effectively represent his constituency. Now, one of the main roles of the Speaker is balancing the rights of the majority to conduct business with the right of the minority to be heard is one of the Speaker's most important responsibilities. Now, the primary role of the opposition is to question the government actions and also to present alternatives position to the government. So while this kind of position between the government and the opposition is adversarial in the British parliamentary system of democracy, that means that debates can be very heated. So the Speaker serves as a very necessary referee, ensuring fair play by all the MLAs, and it is the Speaker's job to enforce the standing orders. He also enforces the rules of Parliament, procedure, and adopted by the Legislative Assembly. That's what the standard orders are, and which are designed to make sure that the debates in the Legislative Assembly are properly carried out, and that all MLAs have the opportunity to participate. Now, these rules require all MLAs to show respect to the Speaker and for each other. For example, members must not speak unless recognized by the Speaker, and the Speaker members must not interrupt the Speaker or other members while they're speaking unless it's a point of order.
Okay, we're going to take a commercial break there, Dr. McPhail, and then we will continue with your discussion as soon as we return. Please stay tuned. For the record, we'll be back shortly. Good morning and welcome back to For the Record. In the studio with me this morning, Dr. Steve McPhail, Mr. Gilbert McLean. Before we took the commercial break, Dr. McPhail would detailing for us the role of the Speaker. I give us a historical perspective of the speakership as well. So we're going to ask Dr. McPhail to continue with the conversation.
Yeah, like I said, the Speaker, because of his neutral position, he cannot take any part in confrontational politics and should not be active in his constituencies, because that would show that he has he's not impartial. So the Speaker gets what he wants for his constituency by negotiations with the government, the various organizations in the government, and the ministers. Now that is not written in a constitution, but that is done by convention, by history. That is how it's done, because the Speaker is a particular person, and in order to keep him out of confrontational politics, the government actually usually gives his constituency what it needs to survive and to flourish. The same as any other constituent once the Speaker is in the chair that represents that constituency. Now, as I said, balancing the rights of the majority and the minority is one of the most important responsibilities of the Speaker. Now, As I've said, the rules of the parliament procedure adopted by the legislature are the standing orders. These rules require all MLAs to show respect to the speaker, as I said before, and the speaker must not interrupt the speaker when he is speaking. In addition to that, the speaker is always in a position to discourage personal attacks. MLAs must not have personal attacks against each other, and they must address each other in the legislative assembly through the speaker at all times. They cannot speak, and they should not address each other directly across the floor of the legislature. And when referring to one another in the legislative assembly, they must say the member from Georgetown East or the member from Georgetown South. They cannot call people by their personal names when they are addressing.
I wonder how that will happen here now in Cayman, because each one now has a constituency, and rather than saying the fourth elected member from Georgetown or West Bay, as the case may be, they should actually be called
the member
from Bontown West, Bontown East.
That's correct. Definitely.
Yeah. Now, that helps maintain order and decorum in the legislative assembly in a spirited debate. Now, and in a spirited debate, the speaker acts as a buffer. The speaker is a kind of a referee. He acts as a buffer between the members, because we must remember now that debates can become inflammatory, because the legislative assembly is a robust debating forum, and it's not a Sunday school meet between polite debating societies. Now, if an MLA does not obey the rules and of the standing order rules and the rules of the quorum in the legislative assembly, and makes inappropriate or discourteous remarks, the speaker will ask the member to withdraw those remarks. Now, if the member does not comply with the speaker's instructions, the speaker has the power to order the MLA to withdraw from the chamber for the day. That has been done several times. I've seen it in the legislative assembly.
Yeah.
For more serious offenses, the speaker names the MLA, which means that the MLA may be suspended from the legislative assembly without pay, or anywhere from 1 to 10 days, or for a week, and even for the session.
Any occasions in the Cayman Islands where that has actually occurred, Mr. McLean?
I know that persons have been suspended for some days from the Legislative Assembly, but I have never been aware of any instance where their pay was actually docked. But they have been suspended.
Now, if the MLA refuses to leave the chamber, as requested by the speaker may ask the sergeant of arms to remove the member. In such a case, the offending member may be suspended for the balance of the session. I don't think that has happened in the Cayman Islands now.
No.
There's also, the Legislative Assembly also appoints, at the time that the speaker is appointed, a deputy speaker who will preside over the assembly when the speaker is absent. He presides over the Legislative Assembly in the chair when the speaker is absent. So it is not so easy in the British parliamentary system to get rid of a speaker. As we heard, the call during the time that the arrest of Mr. Bush in Florida, there was a call the call was from Mr. McLaughlin to do something about Mr. Bush.
Yes.
Well, Mr. McLaughlin has no power to do anything about Mr. Bush, because Mr. Bush is elected by the 19 members of the Legislative Assembly. It's not appointed by Mr. McLaughlin at all, and that should be. I want people to understand that he's not elected by Mr. McLaughlin at all. He's elected by the 19 members of the Legislative Assembly, and only them can remove him by a vote of no confidence in him. Now, there are several ways to remove the speaker. Either he can resign, either he can be removed for infirmity of being not mentally and physically fit to sit in the chair, or either as a vote of no confidence against him by a majority of the members of the Legislative Assembly, or if he's convicted of a very serious criminal offense, he ought to resign. Now, the Journal of Legislative Studies in 1995 reports about a matter that happened in the parliament in Trinidad and Tobago. Now, in that parliament, the speaker tried to was trying to give the opposition the majority in this house.
I wonder, Mr. McPhail, if I also have an article here
Yes.
by Paul Silk, who is one of
Yes.
the most learned in the area of parliamentary process and procedure, and
Yes.
it basically accords with what you say. But maybe I could read a couple of
Yes.
sections of this, which backs up and in effect restates it, perhaps in slightly different way.
Okay.
It says in Britain, the person elected as Speaker is invariably an experienced member of Parliament. Moreover, speakers since 1940 have always been members of the government party when first elected to the chair. However, although he will have been active in party politics for many years, the tradition of impartiality in the speakership, which began with Arthur Onslow, Speaker for 33 years, from 1728, is so strong that everyone accepts that a new Speaker will renounce his party allegiance and become genuinely independent. A Speaker is a member of Parliament and has a constituency like all other members of Parliament. If a general election is called, he is obliged to stand if he wishes to remain as Speaker. Because of the tradition of impartiality, he does not campaign, but stands, quote, as Mr. Speaker seeking re-election, and has, in the past, sometimes not even been opposed by the main opposition parties. If a change of government results from the election, the former Speaker can expect to be elected to the chair, re-elected. As speakers who were former members of the Labour Party were in 1970 and 1979, and former Conservatives from 1964 to 1974. So it simply backs up what you're saying. They cut their party allegiance once they are elected.
Mm-hmm.
I think you got to go to a break.
Yeah, we're going to go to headline news now, folks. For the record, we'll return after headline news. Press the pause button. Don't change the dial. Good morning and welcome back to For the Record. I'm your host, Stuart Connor. My two co-hosts with me this morning, Mr. Gilbert McLean, Dr. Steve McPhail. Mr. McLean, you hadn't completed what you were reading in relation to the speaker.
Yeah, just one or two other excerpts here. The choice of a speaker is by election, with members of Parliament each having one vote. It is a choice which backbenchers take very seriously, and though the Cabinet and Prime Minister will often be known to favor a particular candidate, when a vacancy occurs, backbench support is vital. Generally, however, a vote is avoided and a speaker is elected by his fellow MPs without opposition. Well, that happened in this case with Mr. Bush here in our legislature. He was simply nominated, and there was no other nomination, so he went straight into the position of speakership. And another thing which speaks perhaps in a bit more detail to what Dr. McPhail has said, and it says, in the MP's eyes, the most important job the Speaker has is to balance the rights of the minorities in the House, or of those who hold unpopular views against the majority, and to hold the balance between government and backbenchers in general. Politicians are in the business of getting their own ideas across, and the juggling act between these competing views is not easy for any speaker. And there is one other point here that I think is worth making from this article. It says the speaker's job is a lonely one. By tradition, he does not mingle with other MPs in the dining rooms or bars. He normally wears court dress and when outside his residence is preceded by a train bearer. And also, if he displays any trace of partiality, it would be pounced on, and a motion critical of him would be tabled. Casual criticism of the speaker is not allowed, but he is not protected, as the German speaker is, from criticism as long as he takes the form of if it takes the form of a substantive motion. To avoid this, the speaker's aloofness is almost essential. And it goes on to say, but a speaker's chief reward must be the satisfaction that he is doing the job for which he was elected, making sure that the institution runs well, effectively, and fairly.
Yeah.
I think that adds a bit of further information that you had already spoken about, but perhaps adds a bit of detail to it as to what it happens in the British Parliament. And we copy it. I mean, all the parliaments basically in the Commonwealth follow that on the basis, with some variation,
Yes.
of what happens in the UK Parliament.
So it's not easy to get rid of a speaker, like the public, like our public thinks it's easy to get rid of a speaker. And in fact, my research has shown that there's only one time lately in the Caribbean that a speaker was pushed out of office, and that was in 1995. And the Journal of Legislative Studies in 1995 makes reports that the speaker in the Trinidad and Tobago Parliament was trying to favor the opposition against the opposition getting majority against the government by suspending two of the members of the government's bench, the members of a minister and another member of the government bench, to give the opposition the chance to bring a motion of no confidence against the government. Now, the speaker suspended the minister without naming him, without naming him, and the minister then went to court, and the court gave an interim order that the minister should be reinstated to his seat in the Legislative Assembly in the Parliament until the court case was heard. So the chair refused. The speaker then the government then tried to bring a vote of no confidence in the speaker. I think the speaker name was Mrs. C. Paul. She tried to bring a motion of no confidence in the speaker, and the speaker refused to have the motion put on the order paper. The speaker said that the motion was a contempt of Parliament, and the speaker used her authority of the speaker's chair to refuse advice from the clerks and the executive in the speaker's chambers.
Steve, could I just say then that seems to be a variation there in Trinidad, because if she could refuse it going on the order paper, it means that the speaker then has the ultimate authority for what goes on the order paper. But here, what we have is the standing committee. And it is the members on that committee who decide what goes on the order paper. So that must be a variance there.
Because it's you remember now, Trinidad and Tobago is a parliament, and we are not a parliament. We just a legislature. That's a subtle difference. So the speaker suspended the House leader, and for 6 months without naming him, as I have said, and he went to court and the High Court. The High Court granted what they call a conservatory order by the judge, restating him pending the future determination of the proceedings. And so the speaker then suspended Parliament and refused to call Parliament back. And the government was at a loss now, because they can't get into although the court granted a conservatory order pending the outcome of determination of the proceedings before the court, there was no Parliament. There was no Parliament in which
that's a real problem.
That's a real problem. So what the government did, the government then and these people in the Eastern Caribbean and all these places, they know how to work the constitutions better than anybody else, even better than the Englishmen in the English Parliament themselves. So what they did, they designed a bill to amend the Constitution, providing for a process to remove the Speaker. That's what they did. They brought the bill, and then they used the state of emergency powers that they had and declare a state of emergency in Trinidad, but they declared the state of emergency around the official residence of the Speaker.
That's pretty clever.
So they
must have been able to get the House.
Can you repeat
called
that again
into
for the
session
benefit
again.
of our audience?
So they crafted a bill to amend the Constitution, providing for a procedure to remove the Speaker, and then they used their executive power in the cabinet to bring about a state of emergency, and the area in which they say the state of emergency was necessary was around the residence of the Speaker, in that area of the Speaker, and so the Speaker could not leave out their house without but threatened to be arrested by in a state of emergency. So the Speaker then was confined in the House under the state of emergency, and then Parliament met, and the Deputy Speaker then took over the chair, and the government passed the bill removing the Speaker and suspended the Speaker from the House and the office of the Speaker, and adopted they adopted a new procedure in which they could get rid of a Speaker. So that's the only time in the Caribbean, other than when a Speaker resigned, that the Speaker was actually removed. But that clever move by the Trinidad government.
Takes the Trinidadians to do something like that.
So it was the case then that the cabinet declared a state of emergency.
The cabinet declared a state of emergency.
Because with the Speaker having all the power to call it, then if she still refused, or he still refused, there was no way then of bringing the House back into session.
The government declared a state of emergency and declared a state of emergency in the area around the Speaker's residence.
That
the Speaker
was pretty clever.
Confined to the house and couldn't move on the threat of being arrested. And then Parliament.
And then the deputy was able to step into the position.
Yes.
One of our listeners, actually, I think I can call his name, Mr. Emily, Mr. Art McLean, says that the only time that he can recall there being a vote for a speaker was in 2005 when the late Honorable Edna Moyle was elected. I think there was a nomination that was made by the now Speaker of our Legislative Assembly, the Honorable W. McKeever Bush. He had placed another nomination, and then it went to the vote in that particular instance.
Okay, well, there's a bit of history, because usually it doesn't happen that way, and the British Parliament in particular, they say they do everything to avoid having to go to a vote, but there's a bit of history there for our legislature. But again, it takes the members of the legislature to choose a speaker, and that is what is important to take note of, that the premier, whomever that premier may be, they do not have the power or the authority to remove a speaker.
No, and one of the most important things of the tradition of the speaker is that the speaker impartiality and neutrality in the House, and the fact that although he represents a constituency, or in the Cayman Islands an electoral district, he's not usually active in that district in confrontational politics. That is usually done for him through the government.
Yeah,
through the government.
Passes on his wishes or concerns to the ministers.
Yes, to the ministers.
Okay. Any more in the speakership that we want to talk about?
Well, they're all the nuances that he in the United Kingdom, he's the head of the department. He's the head of the parliament. Canada also, he's the head of the legislature. He's the head of the parliament. And in New Zealand and Australia and in Cayman Islands, the speakership, I think the House is still under the deputy governor.
Yes,
which is an anomaly.
Absolutely.
And he has to send his
budget
budget down to them for them to agree for his budget and even to hire people. In Canada and in United Kingdom, the speaker's very powerful position when it comes to for instance, guests coming from other jurisdictions. There's the speaker's hall. There's the speaker's place where you greet people. I don't see that in our legislative assembly. There's a speaker's hall where the speaker have functions and invite people, and there's also a library, and all of those things that the speaker has. The speaker also has a person who advises him on legal matters that come before the House. Also, the speaker's office is a very, very important office. I don't think it gets the importance in Cayman that it should get, and I think that we should be moving forward to modernize our legislature, because we have a 1990 Constitution.
Or 2009.
I mean,
2009.
2009 Constitution with old-fashioned
practice.
with old-fashioned practice, and it doesn't really work, and it will not work.
Okay, we're going to take that last commercial break now, and then when we return, more discussions in relation to the role of the speaker. Please stay tuned for the record. We'll be back shortly. Good morning and welcome back to For the Record. In the studio with me this morning, Dr. Steve McField, Mr. Gilbert McLean. Just received a call from the leader of the opposition, Honorable Ezra Miller, and he mentioned the fact that when the former governor, Peter Lloyd, was presiding over the Legislative Assembly, and remember
president.
now that went on, until 1992, I believe it was, when we had our first speaker that was
he was then called the president.
Yeah, president of the
Mr.
Assembly.
President.
And the story about the Honorable Jim Borden and the mace.
Yeah, he removed the mace.
Yes.
And of course that brought an end to the proceedings, and he was suspended. But I think
Mr. Miller said that they had to, actually got the police to remove him from the from the chamber.
They called the police, but the removal of the mace was the end of the
legislative session.
The meeting.
In the
Yeah.
absence.
Yeah.
So and the mace for the public is the symbol of the Queen. Of the Queen in Parliament, and without that you cannot in the legislature, and without that you cannot have a meeting without her presence, and that symbolizes her presence. Now the mace has two parts. It has one part is the crown part, and one part is they call the foot of the mace. The crown part always is on the right. It points to the government, and the other side, the foot part, points to the opposition. Oh. And when that is in that cradle, that means that the Queen presence is in the house. The Queen's presence is in the house, and when it's not there, and you notice that when the house is in being
committee. When it's in committee, it's lowered.
It's lowered.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. And of course going back to what you spoke about there, Mr. McField, I dare say Cayman is the only place that you'd find in the Commonwealth, because I don't really know if it's true of other overseas territories, but it's really unthinkable in this day and age that you would have a civil servant who is the head of the Parliament.
And not only that, but the civil servant is also
speaker,
a member of the Parliament.
That's correct.
He's also an he's ex-official member of Parliament.
That's right. I mean,
it says here, the deputy governor and the attorney general are ex-official members of the legislature,
That's
and
right.
now the speaker is subject to someone who he can discipline.
Okay. Now I recall the discussions with the constitutional negotiations. That was an issue that was raised. In looking at several of the other overseas territories' constitution, the deputy governor is not a member of the Legislative Assembly. In some instances, the Attorney General is there, but not the deputy governor. The huge argument that was made in our case was if there were issues relating to the civil service that the deputy governor was there to address those. But what they failed to, I'm sure they recognized it, but they failed to acknowledge the fact that if you needed the deputy governor at the Legislative Assembly, he could be summoned, there for that. And I think that's the stage. If we truly want to have a parliament that represents the people of the Cayman Islands, then it should be comprised solely of persons elected to the Legislative Assembly.
And this was the case back in 1963 from a group of people in Savannah who wrote to the to MPs in the UK saying the same thing. And I think one of the young people that signed that letter was Mr. Eden.
Okay.
Saying that they didn't want any ex-official members sitting in the legislature at that time. This was back in 1963.
Okay. One caller. Let's go to the phone lines. Caller, good morning. Welcome to For the Record.
Yes, good morning, gentlemen.
Morning, Doc.
Good morning.
Welcome back, O.C.
Thank you. Thanks.
I have to say, first of all, that I really do enjoy listening to this broadcast, and that it has really elevated our understanding of ourselves and of our political and social and economic structures. It is absolutely necessary. Steve is just always magnificent, and I always wonder how many people enjoy speaking with him like I do, because he's inspirational. It is also to mention Mr. Ivan Farrington. He is just a great man, and I really appreciate all the times he actually go batting for me or playing cricket for me. And I wanted to say, too, that when Mr. Jim Borden was removed from the Legislative Assembly, I was there as an observer, and it was Mr. Deputy Commissioner Rudy Evans who spoke to him very nicely and got him actually to leave, because they had a great relationship. And I don't imagine that anybody else besides Mr. Evans, Deputy Commissioner Rudy Evans, could have got Mr. Jim to have left the Legislative Assembly that day, but he decided to leave with the Mays. I think it was Steve McFeel that gave him that idea.
Yes.
That was Steve that gave him that idea. But it speaks again to the way in which the pumping ceremony is really sort of based upon very deeply rooted mystical symbols and protocols and feelings. That is what constitutes the authority. Steve mentioned the mace and the back of the queen and so forth and so on. All of those things are very important for our people to realize in terms of the evolution of our identity, really as a nation, as a small island nation. And all of these things I think that you all are doing is all part of the process of building that larger framework for people to be able to understand and interpret how their system works and how they therefore should interact with their system. Also, I was suspended from the Legislative Assembly for a day by Captain Mabry O'Connell. It was me that was suspended because it had something to do with emotions that I had brought to remove a member of the Executive Council at that time, and I got into a heated debate with Mr. Truman Borden at that time, who was leader, I think, of the
government business
at that time, and I actually called him a liar, and Captain Mabry, the Speaker at the time, told me I had to withdraw it. Now I am sure that although it was unparliamentary, and I knew it was unparliamentary, to me it was true at that particular time, so I didn't. So I had to leave for a day. But when I went back, I was confronted with the same issue. It doesn't go away, So you'll get suspended again, and you'll get suspended until you decide to go ahead and apologize and follow the direction of the Speaker, because as Steve said, the Speaker is a very important figure, not as a person, but as a part of an office that really goes beyond the Parliament. It goes into the entire society, because the structure of government, the way it was set up from ancient times, is not just a material structure; it is also a spiritual structure and ideological structure as well. Something that we happen not to recognize here. This is the reason why we allow people, for instance, like the deputy governor, to be in our parliament. That is a holy place. Allow them to invade and be able to direct the spirit or the focus of the people. And because we're not aware of the symbol of the British crown, not just being in the mace, but also being in one of the seats on the government bench. We take all these things as very simplistic. But when we begin to understand symbolism and procedures and protocol and the way in which it ritualizes a ruling structure in a country, the quicker we will realize how we have been pushed out of that ruling hegemony, and that we will actually have people like yourselves who become authorities in terms of conveying information, because that's absolutely necessary that we choose the information that will become part of the superstructure or the ideological structure of our country. So I love the show, OC. Good set you're back, and it's great to hear you, and I admire your courage, your intelligence, and your ability to deeply analyze many of these problems that we just treat superficially but really need to be examined in depth.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Doc, for your comments there, your explanation, and your endorsement of For the Record as well. We certainly appreciate that. Gentlemen, it's getting to that time of the morning where we have to say bye to our listening and our viewing audience. But before I do that, and before I give both of you an opportunity for some closing comments as well, I just earlier I asked about the silence of the police, Royal Cayman Islands Police Service, as well as the Immigration Department. I have received something from both, but I will only read one in relation to what has been publicly shared, and that one says, in response, this is from the Royal Cayman Islands Police Service, in response to further queries on this topic, and that had to do with the ex-Jamaican police officer who was charged with assaulting a person while still a member of the Jamaica Police Service. So it reads, in response to further queries on this topic, I want to further clarify that the person currently in court in Jamaica, as per the article in the Jamaica Observer, is not employed with the Royal Cayman Islands Police Service. We have received different names for this person, including O'Dane Simpson or Dane White Simpson, and there is no officer past or present with these names. And the public relations officer goes on to state that I am in contact with the Jamaica Observer regarding this correction. We continue here to try to reach the Jamaica Observer as well, and possibly speak with the reporter who broke the story. But we have been unsuccessful. We will try afterwards, try all day, and hopefully I can report something back to you on Wednesday as well. Some closing comments from you, Mr. Gilbert, and I want to extend the invitation for you to return with us until Miss Theresa gets back as well, if you can make it.
Well, thank you very much, Mr. Connor, and I just want to say that it was a pleasure having the opportunity of hosting while you were here, and of course it would not have gone half as well if I didn't have the backup here of Dr. McField, which made a tremendous difference in the days that we were here together. It was my pleasure, and I'll see what happens going forward until Miss Theresa gets back here. And I want to say that I am also one of the persons who listen to this show 3 times a week, and because I learn things from it. There's stuff that's discussed that I know about, but there's things that, particularly the legal side of things, that I hear sometime here that's dealt with by Mr. McField. Mm-hmm. And just to say to you, welcome back, and keep up the good work.
Thank you. Thank you. Doctor?
I would just leave the public with something that happened in 1642. It's called the famous speaker incident in 1642, where the speaker Lenthal refused the demand of King Charles I to produce 5 members of the Parliament for Charles to arrest them. And this is what the speaker said to the king when Charles was asking him to disclose the whereabouts of the members of Parliament. The speaker said to the king, "I have neither eyes to see nor tongue to speak in this place, but as the house is pleased to direct me, whose servant I am here." And so that is what he said. So I have no eyes to speak or to speak in this place as you direct me, because as whose servant I am, your servant.
Thank you very much for that, Dr. Backfield. Folks, I want to thank you, our listening and viewing audience, for allowing Radio Cayman and by extension For the Record into your homes, into your vehicles, as you traverse the busy roads of the Cayman Islands into places of work, whether it be an office cubicle or if you're working in the outdoors. I also want to remind you that we are our brothers and our sisters' keepers. There is always someone out there who's less fortunate than we are, and I ask you to extend a helping hand to them. If you can't do that, then I suggest donate to a worthy charity, because we always want to consider those who need, not necessarily those who want. I say to you, have a great day. Continue to follow your radio station, Radio Cayman. Join Sterling Dwayne Ebanks at 12 noon for a talk today. Have a great, great day. And as usual, we ask the good Lord to bless these 3 beautiful, wonderful Cayman Islands.
For the Record is brought
Informative, impartial, insightful.
This is your talk show.
1-800-534-8255. Your calls, your input. This is For the Record.